Thank you, Gopal. Thank you for everyone who's come in to our weekly Bhagavat Sravanam. This is our family program of the week for devotees, and we're so happy to have everyone here. Welcome. So today we have our dear Dina Bandu speaking for us. He is an amazing community member who's very, very loved by everyone here, and he's a chaplain at a hospital in New Jersey called
Greystone.
Greystone. So he's a professional chaplain, and he's also a husband and a father to a beautiful baby. And he also, he's just been part of the Bhakti Center community since what year?
I started coming here first in 2008.
2008, so that's a really long time. So he's a senior community member, so thank you so much for being here with us today and for speaking.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much for the opportunity to join with you all this morning for some Krishna Katha, and just like to thank everyone for joining, for your kindness, and Champaka, thank you for the opportunity to share this morning, and thanks to Ekeshwar Prabhu and Jenna for setting up and helping in so many ways, and just for everyone, for Gopal Prabhu for the kirtan. So, okay. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Ladita Shri Vishakam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostupe Bhakta Kanchana Gaurhangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Evascha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you everyone once again, and I'd like to just seek everyone's blessings and well wishes so that we can have a meaningful and uplifting discussion this morning. Vaishnavas like Ananda Loka Prabhu. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person, Prabhu. And just each and every one of you, thank you for joining and for your kind blessings. Okay. Okay, so today we'll be sharing a little bit about the 24 gurus of the Avadhuta Brahmana. So this is a very interesting and instructive story. It goes very deep. There's a lot of subject matter, and I just wanted to say as a disclaimer, we'll try to move through the 24 gurus, but I also want the conversation to unfold in a natural way. So we may have to make it a two-parter. Let's see what happens. But we're prepared to go through the 24 if time allows. Okay. So just a little introduction and context here. So this is coming from Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto, and it spans actually 3 chapters, chapters 7, 8, and 9. It's a story in which Lord Krishna is instructing Uddhava. So this section of Srimad Bhagavatam is sometimes referred to as the Uddhava Gita, because Uddhava is a pure devotee of the Lord, and much in the format of the Bhagavad Gita, he approaches Krishna in some distress and is asking Krishna questions, and Krishna goes on to instruct him, based on his own personal concerns, very much like we see between Krishna and Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. So this section of the Bhagavatam is sometimes referred to as Uddhava Gita. So Uddhava wishes to join Krishna in Vaikuntha. That's kind of the context of this this section, that he's telling Krishna that he's exhausted, materially exhausted, done with the ways of this material world, and that he just wishes to join Krishna in his abode. And Krishna at that time, because they're very dear friends, Krishna actually reveals to Sri Uddhava that he is actually also wishing to return to his original abode, and his pastimes in this world are nearing their close. So he shares that with Uddhava. And they are speaking about the nature of the spiritual world. And at this time, Krishna advises Uddhava, if you'd like to proceed to my abode, you should take up sannyas, you should become renounced. So Uddhava, of course, has different questions and concerns about renunciation, because renunciation in this world is very, very difficult. So he shares with Krishna his concerns, and that opens up this discussion. And in the course of this discussion, one story that Krishna shares with Uddhava is this 24 gurus of the Avadhuta Brahmana. Very instructive story. So that's the context for this. So I'm just sharing a few verses from the actual text so we can get a glimpse into the mood and the exchange that they're having. So renunciation is difficult, especially for those who struggle with attachment and lack of bhakti. So Uddhava says to Krishna, and we'll just chant this verse just to have some Sanskrit invocation here for this section. Tyagoyam dushkaro bhuman kamanam vishayatmavihi sutaram tvai sarvatman abhakter iti me matihi. Translation. My dear Lord, O Supreme Soul, for those whose minds are attached to sense gratification, and especially for those bereft of devotion unto you, such renunciation of material enjoyment is most difficult to perform. That is my opinion. He shares further, O my Lord, I myself am most foolish because my consciousness is merged in the material body and bodily relations, which are all manufactured by your illusory energy. Thus I am thinking, I am this body, and all of these relatives are mine. Therefore, my Lord, please instruct your poor servant. Please tell me how I can very easily carry out your instructions. So here Uddhava is just sharing very honestly that in this world we form identifications with so many things, with place, oh, I'm from New Jersey, or our relations, our family, and it's very easy to become entangled. So even beyond a lack of knowledge or a lack of bhakti, we can also become very much entangled by our various identifications in this world, our position, our role in various communities, and so on and so forth. So he's sharing this with Krishna in the mood of honest inquiry. So Uddhava is seeking knowledge, and he's trusting only in the Supreme Lord. So he says, my dear Lord, you are the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you reveal yourself to your devotees. Besides your lordship, I do not see anyone who can actually explain perfect knowledge to me. Such a perfect teacher is not to be found even among the demigods in heaven. Indeed, all of the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, are bewildered by your illusory potency. They are conditioned souls who accept their own material bodies and bodily expansions to be the highest truth. So you see here that Uddhava is also having this crisis in terms of who can I trust? Who in this world can I trust? Even the demigods, he's feeling like, oh, they may not be so trustworthy. I can't necessarily seek perfect knowledge from them. So in this case, he's very, very fortunate to be standing before the Lord. But I'm sure many of us who don't have necessarily the benediction of that type of darshan, we're also sometimes struggling, wondering who we can inquire from and what that relationship looks like, and so on and so forth. So Uddhava is also just sharing this. The honesty of his sharing is very inspiring. And as with any circumstance, when we're honest, when we're vulnerable, in front of the right people, of course this is the ultimate right person, the supreme person, that our vulnerability is not taken as a weakness, it's taken as like when the calf goes to the udder of the mother cow, right? So we approach in this mood of seeking nourishment, seeking help, and our superiors are then able to just give give. So Uddhava surrender, much like Bhagavad Gita. He, as Arjuna approaches Krishna and says, I'm a soul surrendered unto you, please instruct me. So very similarly here, therefore, O Lord, feeling weary of material life and tormented by its distresses, I now surrender unto you because you are the perfect master. You are the unlimited, all-knowing Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose spiritual abode in Vaikuntha is free from all disturbances. Vaikuntha means without anxiety. In fact, you are known as Narayana, the true friend of all living beings. So Krishna offers his response and assurance. The Supreme Lord replied, generally those human beings who can expertly analyze the actual situation of the material world are able to raise themselves beyond the inauspicious life of gross material gratification. So just a brief passage from the purport here, and this translation and purports are by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Sri Uddhava expressed to the Lord in the previous verses his fallen condition and his entanglement in the material concept of life. Now Lord Krishna reassures Uddhava that even persons far less qualified than Uddhava are able to extricate themselves from the inauspicious life of material sense gratification. And so according to Srila Sridhar Swami, even if one has not received the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, one can understand by direct and indirect analysis that the material world is not a place of enjoyment. Direct analysis means one's personal experience, and indirect analysis means hearing and reading of the experience of others. So this is a key theme in this pastime. In this pastime, the Avadhuta Brahmana, as we'll see, is sharing the different realizations he has gleaned from various gurus, and these gurus are very diverse and not necessarily what we would think of as a guru in terms of someone who approaches as a direct spiritual teacher. He has the vision, the intelligence to gain these direct and indirect experiences by which he attains his spiritual realization. So the importance of intelligence on the spiritual path is emphasized here, and also how this leads us to guru and to sadhu sangha. And this echoes Bhagavad Gita as well. So, an intelligent person, expert in perceiving the world around him and in applying sound logic, can achieve real benefit through his own intelligence. Thus, sometimes one acts as one's own instructing spiritual master. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, those who surrender unto me, I give the intelligence, I give the knowledge by which they can come to me. So this theme is echoed here. And very interestingly, Krishna himself is saying here, thus, sometimes one acts as one's own instructing spiritual master. So from the purport here, we can just read one passage. As illustrated in this chapter by the conversation between King Yadu and the Avadhuta, a sensitive, reasonable person can acquire real knowledge and happiness simply by carefully observing the world around him. By observing the happiness and distress of other living entities, one can understand what is beneficial and what is destructive. Srila Jiva Goswami states in this connection, Guru Vanush Sarane Pravartaka Ityartaha. The knowledge acquired by one's own perception and intelligence leads one to appreciate the value of the representative of Lord Krishna. The word Shreyas in this verse indicates that one can advance in life through one's own intelligence. By good association, one should gradually come to understand one's eternal position as a servant of Krishna, and then one becomes very eager to live in the company of other enlightened persons. Birds of a feather flock together. The symptom of an enlightened servant of Krishna is that he is eager for the company of other such great souls. Thus, by one's sensitive and rational observation of this material world, one should come to appreciate the value of spiritual life in the association of the devotees. So in this sense, we can say that, so in this case, guru is kind of the question and the answer, the means and the end, that we're guided from within by the Chaitya Guru, which is something we're about to get into, the Guru within the heart, but that also leads us to develop appreciation for great souls, and in that way make contact with those who will appear as gurus in our lives. So just to share a little bit thematically what this pastime engages with and what we can kind of meditate upon as we hear the story of the 24 gurus. So Chaitya Guru, so Srila Prabhupada in a lecture, he explains, So Krishna is advising that I am in everyone's heart. You can take advice from Krishna. Krishna is ready. Krishna's another name is Chaitya Guru. Chaitya Guru means the guru who is situated within your heart. Krishna comes out as instructor guru or initiator guru outside, and he is sitting within the heart as Chaitya Guru. Krishna is ready to help you, help us, every one of us, in two ways, by the external guru and the internal guru. Internal guru, he is Krishna himself, and external guru, his manifestation, the spiritual master. So we should take advantage of two gurus and make our life successful. This is Krishna consciousness movement. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. So that's Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So he concluded his lecture with this point in Bombay in 1973. So we are given the fortune of Krishna seated within each and every one of our hearts as Paramatma, as Chaitya Guru. And these are not unrelated gurus. Chaitya Guru, Paramatma, helps us to make contact with our initiating or instructing guru, Diksha Guru or Shiksha Guru. And in this way, we can say that the external manifestation of the guru within the heart appears before us, and they reflect the teachings. So that in this way, our Shiksha Gurus, our instructing gurus, or our Diksha initiating guru, they can help us also to tune into Paramatma, help us to tune into the guru within the heart, so that we live in such a way that we're actually recognizing the guru principle wherever it may appear. Anyone who speaks to us can potentially embody that guru principle, even for a moment. Of course, we don't want to be overly speculative about that, but with the instruction of our Shiksha and Diksha Guru, we have the opportunity to understand more about the characteristics of Sri Guru, of Guru Tattva, and in that way we can start to have more open eyes and ears for when this Sri Guru appears in our life across so many different forms. So, just one question for everyone to contemplate, prior to diving into this pastime. How might our distractions or the kind of constantly available modern lifestyle where we're always expected to be available for so many things in so many different ways, how might that obscure the voice of Chaitya Guru within our heart? And how could that potentially impede our introspection? So it's just something to meditate upon and pray about, because in Bhagavat Gita, bless you, in Bhagavat Gita, Krishna says that for the introspective sage, what is night for living beings is day, and vice versa. So the introspective stage, so it means that introspection is actually very much required on the spiritual path, and sometimes we don't have space for that. I'm speaking for myself. I feel like I'm just running around a lot of the time, and I don't have the opportunity to really tune in to that voice within. So Prabhupada again defines, Chaitya Guru means the guru who is sitting within your heart, Chaitya Guru, but he does not speak to anyone. He speaks to everyone, but only the devotee can hear. So again, just to bring out this point, that it is our responsibility and our prayer that we can somehow also tune in to what is being shared within the heart by Paramatma, by the Chaitya Guru. Okay, and one verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Shiksha Guru ke tajani Krishnera Swarupa Antaryami Bhakta Shreshta E Duirupa. One should know the instructing spiritual master to be the personality of Krishna. Lord Krishna manifests himself as the super soul and as the greatest devotee of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada in his purport just explains here that Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami states that the instructing spiritual master is a bona fide representative of Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna himself teaches us as the instructing spiritual master from within and without. From within he teaches as Paramatma, our constant companion, and from without he teaches from the Bhagavad Gita as the instructing spiritual master. Okay, so let us begin. So we're going to read this narration. So, okay. Oh, I forgot to do this. The Srimad Bhagavatam, do we have the ability to bring up Vedabase on here?
Yeah. Just click out of your PowerPoint presentation and
Yeah.
go to Safari and just go to Database.
Okay.
Search database.
Okay. May already have it open. Okay.
There it is.
I hope I'm in the right section here. But I think I'm not connected to the, to the Wi-Fi.
Oh,
Okay.
click on it.
Sorry, everyone. Okay.
I can give you the Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Click on it and click TBC test.
Uh-huh.
And then I'll just come type it.
Okay. Thank you, Chelsea. So just to summarize, at this point, yes,
Well, I don't want to derail where you're going, but I was just wondering if, because I really appreciated this idea of using one's own intelligence and introspection and getting in touch with who in the heart. You reference what Krishna says in the Gita, Tesha Satatyuta, none of those are engaged with serving his intelligence within something. And I was wondering, because I was also reading a book about getting in touch with, a devotee was speaking about Arjuna's journey to Gita and getting in touch with our inner guide. And at the same time, he was talking about how sometimes the narrative inside may sound like our inner guide or Krishna, but it may also be the voice of our ego, or maybe the voice of our mind, or maybe the voice of something else. And so, can you speak a little bit about, now or later, I'm just curious to hear from you about how to differentiate those various voices, because, you know, I always feel the most dangerous words in the English language is God told me to do it.
oh yes.
And so,
Oh,
you know,
yes.
or this is what, and sometimes it's just like, you know, we're cut off because I just think I've got this direct line, or I'm just following my heart. But there's some validity to that, and there's also some danger to that. So I'm just wondering if you could help navigate that fine line.
Thank you so much for sharing this point. Really helps us to prevent, you know, getting overly kind of warm and fuzzy with this idea that, you know, oh, Krishna speaking to us from within the heart. Yes, undoubtedly it's true. But at the same time, it can very easily become mixed with our own whims, our own ego, our own delusions about life, right? So in that way, so what we can say about that is we don't want to become overly turned off to what we feel within, because in the spiritual world, we also have emotions. So our emotions are important. So if we become too much on the side of, oh, I'm only going to accept what I'm hearing from an outside source, from the Shastra or from our spiritual teachers, that may also make us hard-hearted and we lose our individuality a little bit. But at the same time, if we're overly kind of into our own feelings, our own kind of take on everything, we can get a little speculative and we can ultimately, at worst, be kind of misled and self-centered. So what is very helpful in this way is that the external guru, our shiksha gurus, our instructing gurus, or our initiating guru, they can also help us in many ways to make sense of what is coming up within us. If we have the opportunity to approach them and say, I'm having this inspiration, or I'm having this realization, and they can kind of help us to determine what is kind of most beneficial for us to focus on within that realization, and maybe lovingly kind of make clear to us what might be extraneous or not properly situated, you know, within us. And we have that check and balance system of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So if we're carrying a certain realization, a certain impression within us, we may be able to check into that by speaking with devotees, Sadhu, by connecting with Guru, or by looking at the Shastra and seeing if we can somehow verify. Once again, it can get a little slippery because, you know, if we want to find something to interpret within the text, we can. But that's why there's 3 prongs there, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So a second set of eyes or a second set of ears will be very, very helpful in those cases. But not that we completely invalidate what comes up. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I want to be conscious of the time. I know we have a lot to cover. We go till 12:30, is that right? Okay. So I'll just share here the meeting in which Krishna begins to speak to Uddhava about the Avadhuta Brahmana. So here it is. Here we are. In this regard, sages cite a historical narration concerning the conversation between the greatly powerful king Yadu and an Avadhuta. Maharaj Yadu once observed a certain Brahmana Avadhuta who appeared to be quite young and learned, wandering about fearlessly. Being himself most learned in spiritual science, the king took the opportunity and inquired from him as follows. Sri Yadu said, O Brahmana, I see that you are not engaged in any practical religious activity, and yet you have acquired a most expert understanding of all things and all people within this world. Kindly tell me, sir, how did you acquire this extraordinary intelligence, and why are you traveling freely throughout the world behaving as if you were a child? So this is an avadutta. Yes?
Could you just, it's illegible to us on the screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is this any better?
More.
More.
Yeah, it's better.
It fits?
A little
A
smaller.
little bit less.
Okay, okay. Fine tuning.
So it's just
Right
right.
there.
Okay, okay. Okay, thank you, thank you. So this is an avadutta, right? One who's behaving in kind of a difficult to understand way, we can say. Someone who's kind of spiritually intoxicated and not so much concerned for any of the social codes. So Maharaj Yadu encounters such an avadutta. Okay, generally human beings work hard to cultivate religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and also knowledge of the soul. And their usual motive is to increase the duration of their lives, acquire fame, and enjoy material opulence, right? So we'll just skip ahead here. And then what we find is that the avadutta answers him and says, okay, the Brahmana said, my dear king, with my intelligence I have taken shelter of many spiritual masters. Having gained transcendental understanding from them, I now wander about the earth in a liberated condition. Please listen as I describe them to you. And now we have the master list here. O king, I have taken shelter of 24 gurus, who are the following: the earth, air, sky, water, fire, moon, sun, pigeon and python, the sea, moth, honeybee, elephant and honey thief, the deer, the fish, the prostitute Pingala, the kurara bird and the child, and the young girl, arrow maker, serpent, spider, and wasp. My dear king, by studying their activities, I have learned the science of the self. It's very intriguing, right? Isn't it just so intriguing to hear? Okay, sorry. Oh, whoops, sorry. Slideshow. So now we'll get into each one. And just wonder if anyone has reflection they'd like to share at any point. Just feel free to put a hand up or just speak. So we'll be sharing from the text the significance of each of these 24 gurus. And we'll go on this journey together. So, earth. And these are all of the, unless otherwise indicated, these are the words of the Brahmana Avadut, sharing about each guru. A sober person, even when harassed by other living beings, should understand that his aggressors are acting helplessly under the control of God, and thus he should never be distracted from the progress on his own path. This rule I have learned from the earth. A saintly person should learn from the mountain to devote all his efforts to the service of others, and to make the welfare of others the sole reason for his existence. Similarly, as the disciple of the tree, he should learn to dedicate himself to others. Right? So the earth is tolerating so much at this very moment, right? Rainforests being burned down, drilling into the surface of the earth for oil, people walking in Manhattan, so many people stepping on the surface of the earth. So much going on, right? Pollution. And so here the Brahmana Avadut is viewing the earth as the ultimate tolerant entity, that as an exemplar of tolerance, there are so many ways we can look at the earth. The trees stand out in any kind of weather and remain still. The mountain only wishes to, it says here, devote all the efforts to the service of others, right? So water is coming from the mountains, minerals and different resources are coming from the mountains. And the tree is very tolerant. Does that make anyone think of anything? Yes, yes. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also emphasizing this point in Shikshastakam. One can chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street, more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige and ready to offer all respects to others. Such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. So we see this teaching come up, that the earth and the trees and so on are exemplars of tolerance, and in such a state of mind we can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. next guru is air. So here the Brahmana Avadut, he's saying that a transcendentalist may be surrounded with so many material objects, both good and bad. So we're receiving so many impressions at any time. But one who has transcended this material sense of good and bad, they don't become entangled, no matter what they make contact with. So the air is like that too. The air is making contact with everything. Making contact with a beautiful field of flowers and also making contact with a landfill, right? But in that way, the air is not affected. The air remains the air and travels on and makes contact with everything, but remains pure and in motion. The sky is the third guru. So here, Brahmana Avadut is explaining that a thoughtful sage, even while living within a material body, should understand himself to be pure spirit soul. Similarly, one should see that the spirit soul enters within all forms of life, both moving and non-moving, that the individual souls are thus all-pervading. The sage should further observe that the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the Supersoul is simultaneously present within all things. Both the individual soul and the Supersoul can be understood by comparing them to the nature of the sky. Although the sky extends everywhere and everything rests within the sky does not mix with anything, nor can it be divided by anything. Although the mighty wind blows clouds and storms across the sky is never implicated or affected by these activities. Similarly, the spirit soul is not actually changed or affected by contact with the material nature. Although the living entity enters within a body made of earth, water, and fire, although he is impelled by the three modes of nature created by eternal time, his eternal spiritual nature is never actually affected. So the soul remains pure. No question of the soul being spoiled in any way. The mind can be disturbed, the body can be corrupted and injured in various ways. But the soul, as in Bhagavad Gita says, cannot be cut, burned, dried, and whatever is happening, whatever the material circumstances, the soul is not affected by that. The soul is the passenger. Maybe the soul may be pulled here and there by our various sensory activities, but the soul remains at peace. Okay, the fourth guru is water. So here he explains, O king, a saintly person is just like water, because he is free from all contamination, gentle by nature, by speaking creates a beautiful vibration like that of flowing water. Just by seeing, touching, or hearing such a saintly person, the living entity is purified, just as one is cleansed by contact with pure water. Thus, a saintly person, just like a holy place, purifies all those who contact him, because he always chants the glories of the Lord. So water is a purifier. Water is always purifying. Whatever we place in contact with water, we can understand that it's becoming purified. So the great souls are like that also. And just an important supplement, Hare Krishna, just an important supplement to this verse is Nectar of Instruction. Sixth verse in Nectar of Instruction is explaining that a devotee, though a devotee may appear to have some external infirmities or external flaws, that is not the real reality. Just as the Ganga is always pure and worshipable, although the Ganga may appear to have foam or mud or bubbles, right? So in this way we understand that a saintly person, regardless of any external consideration, is always pure and transcendental. Okay, fifth guru is fire. So here the Brahmana Avadutta is explaining, saintly persons become powerful by the execution of austerities, and their consciousness is unshakable, because they do not try to enjoy anything within the material world. Such naturally liberated sages accept foodstuffs that are offered to them by destiny, and if by chance they happen to eat contaminated food, they are not affected, just like fire, which burns up contaminated substances that are offered to it. So just like the wind may come in contact with so many different pure or impure things, but the wind remains pure, fire is the same way. Fire can consume anything, yet it's still considered pure. So you can use fire to burn something impure, yet the fire is still considered to be pure by virtue of its ability to consume and neutralize any substance. So a saintly person, another example here, sometimes like fire, appears in a concealed form and at other times reveals himself. So fire may smolder quietly, and then all of a sudden it will come forth as a blaze. So a spiritual person sometimes may be very quiet in a concealed way. But for the welfare of the conditioned souls, they may appear, just like Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was doing his bhajan in Vrindavan. He was in the Radha Damodar temple, sadhu, right? And then he, instead of living that quiet life of a bhajananandi sadhu, he came as a Goshtanandi sadhu. He came to share the teachings of Krishna consciousness with everyone. So he appeared in that way. So just as fire manifests differently in pieces of wood of different sizes and qualities, the omnipotent Supreme Soul, having entered the bodies of higher and lower life forms, created by his own potency, appears to assume the identity of each. Right? So the Paramatma is within each and every one of us, but we're not identical. We have our different qualities, yet it's the same Paramatma. So it could be the same fire within a small twig, or the same fire within a log, or a medium size, so that's the example there that the Avadutta Brahmana is giving. So that's what he learned from fire. Yes?
I have another interpretation for the water part.
Please.
So like, as all rivers or water bodies flow to a larger water body, so I think our purpose of our lives is to flow to the larger source, that is the divine himself.
Beautiful, beautiful. Very much appreciated, Prabhu. Thank you. Yeah, and that appears in Bhagavad Gita, as all rivers reach the sea. And actually, it may even come up here. So it's very good. That's a great point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else, any thoughts at this time? Okay, we'll continue along. I don't know if we're going to get all 24. We may have to do a two-part series here. But, okay, so the moon. So various phases of one's material life, beginning with birth and culminating in death, are all properties of the body and do not affect the soul, just as the apparent waxing and waning of the moon does not affect the moon itself. Such changes are enforced by the imperceptible movements of time. So the moon may appear as a full moon, Purnima, or it may be a new moon where it's hardly even visible. Yet we know in reality that the moon remains the same. So we can see this reflected in Bhagavad Gita also, our different phases of life. The soul remains the same. So Bhagavad Gita 2:13, Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yoganam jara tata dehantara praptir diras tatra namuhyati. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So as they say, change is the only constant. But the soul remains truly constant amid all of those changes. Okay, so the sun. Isn't it amazing? This Avadutta Brahmana, he's seeing so many deep teachings that reflect the Shastra. We can find these Shastric examples that are just reflecting the realizations that he gleaned from nature, from what he saw around him. So, the sun. So just as the sun evaporates large quantities of water by its potent rays and later returns the water to the earth in the form of rain, a saintly person may accept various things for the use of service, but then through the course of the service will return them, and often will return them manyfold, right? And so just to give an example, someone may, a saintly person may receive a donation, but then they'll use that donation in such a way that it's perfectly engaged in the service of the Lord. And in that way, so many people may benefit. They may use that donation to distribute prasadam, right? So then so many people are gaining from what has come in. So the inhalation is there in the form of the donation, but a saintly person will exhale something that is multitudinous, something that reaches many, many different people, and it's being returned. So in that way, even the example, Srila Prabhupada would sometimes be gifted jewelry, watches, and rings and stuff by disciples, and he'd wear it for a little while, and then he would give it away to someone as a gift. So it's always this inhalation and exhalation. That's a saintly person. So even when reflected in various objects, the sun is never divided, nor does it merge into its reflection. Only those with dull brains would consider the sun in this way. Similarly, although the soul is reflected through many different material bodies, the soul remains undivided and non-material. So So this is the lesson coming from the sun. Sometimes we hear that example of the sun being reflected in many different bowls of water. And the reflection will appear in each bowl, but it's the same sun. It's the same sun. Okay, the pigeon. So this is an interesting story. This is a longer story that the Brahmana Avadutta tells. I'll just summarize it. So he says here, one should never indulge in excessive affection or concern for anyone or anything. Otherwise, one will have to experience great suffering, just like the foolish pigeon. So he tells the story of young child pigeons. There's a pigeon family, and the young children pigeons get trapped in a hunter's net. And so the mother pigeon, out of her affection, out of her concern, she goes and she cries out. And because of her crying out, the hunter is also able to notice her, and she becomes also entangled. In the course of trying to rescue the children, she also becomes entangled in the net. And then the husband pigeon, he sees what went on, and he goes, and he also becomes entrapped in the net. So it's a very sad story. It's a very, very sad story. There's no way around it, right? But so what we try to do, though, to make sense of this, is that, what we find is that excessive affection. So in other words, not seeing things on a larger scale. If we lose perspective, if we just kind of get absorbed in our own kind of I, me, mine conception. I was sharing actually with Tiffany earlier as she was walking out and coming in. We were talking about, I have a young son, and we were talking about how it's very easy to get into this I, me, mine conception, even in a prideful way. Oh, my child, my son. Yeah, it's true also, but they don't belong to it. They're coming from Krishna as well. And it's important to maintain that twofold. Not that we withhold our affection, but at the same time that we have perspective about things. So this is one way of explaining this. And the Brahmana Avadut, in more strong words, says, in this way, one who's too attached to family life becomes disturbed at heart. Like the pigeon, he tries to find pleasure in mundane sex attraction. Busily engaged in maintaining his own family, the miserly person is fated to suffer greatly, along with all his family members. The doors of liberation are open wide to one who has achieved human life. But if a human being simply devotes himself to family life, like the foolish bird in this story, then he is to be considered as one who has climbed to a high place only to trip and fall down. So in other words, that our human life is ultimately meant for self-realization, for exploration of the deeper matters of life, because we have the capability to do that, unlike other species. So no problem having family, so on and so forth, but it should be accompanied by, and actually ultimately should be a limb of our self-realization, that through our experiences, through our service, in whatever station of life we're in, we have the opportunity to cultivate deeper understanding and deeper questions, answers, so on and so forth about life. Okay, so python, number 9, python. So he shares, following the example of the python, one should give up material endeavors and accept for one's maintenance food that comes of its own accord, whether such food be delicious or tasteless, ample or meager. So the python just slithers around quietly and takes whatever may come along. So in that way, not that we necessarily, a Brahmana Avadut would literally do that, would do madhukari, would beg, and whatever is there, okay, this is my food for the day. But for us also, it means that we don't want to be overly preferential and picky, that we see that what comes to us is Krishna's mercy, and we try our best within reason to accept that. So if at any time food does not come, then a saintly person should fast for many days without making endeavor. He should understand that by God's arrangement he must fast. Thus, following the example of a python, he should remain peaceful and patient. So this is the standard of someone who's very renounced. A saintly person should remain peaceful and materially inactive, maintaining his body without much endeavor. Even though possessed of full sensual, mental, and physical strength, a saintly person should not become active for material gain, but rather should always remain alert to his actual self-interest. So one who's in this very renounced state of life will be focused on the spiritual reality more than the material needs, trusting that, okay, if I need this much every day, I trust that Krishna gives it. Why should Krishna not give it tomorrow? So that's the mood of a wandering mendicant, which we are hearing from this Brahmana Avadutta. But even in our own life, we can apply it to some degree. Our faith and trust that Krishna will provide for us, not thinking that it's by our own sweat of our brow that these things are happening, that we're kind of succeeding in life because of our own, our own gifts, our own knowledge, so on and so forth. No, Krishna may give certain gifts, but ultimately Krishna is in control and he's the provider. We are not the controllers here. Okay, the seed. Any thoughts? I just want to give space if anyone has any thoughts. Stu?
I'm just happy to hear this. I love it.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I love it too. I love this pastime. It's just so beautiful and so interesting. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're enjoying. Mangal Arti, Prabhu?
Just 2 quick points on what you spoke about. The meaning of avaduta also is, I've read that it means free. One who's neglected or one who is neglected. The ego or the rules of conventional dharma.
Mm-hmm.
So I really appreciated what you were saying in response to Doyle Prabhu's question about this sort of God told me to outside voices versus one's inner conviction and the value of pratyaksha, of knowledge and one's intelligence gained and used in the process of devotional service. So to summarize, I just really like that point about balancing the outside voices with pratyaksha and with inner conviction. I was picturing Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur taking sannyas, sitting alone in this place, and that throughout the lives of our acharyas and in Shastra we find these sort of moments in their lives in which they were either cast in a circumstance that they did not ask to be in, or found themselves otherwise for any other reason in some circumstance that they had to make a decision that would be unpopular. And so I just thought it was really beautiful how you just stated that in such a balanced way of Achintya Veda Veda Tattva, of incorporating both. I'm so happy that you asked that question. I just thought it was so deep, and it's such a pitfall, like a place that we can just get stuck in.
Yes.
So I'm so happy that it was brought up, and I just really appreciated the way. And I just wanted to bring attention back to what you said, because having that balance becomes so important throughout life. Lastly, the point about the sun and the moon, I was just picturing how the moon revolves around the sun, and in Jyotish or in Indian astronomy and astrology, that the moon is the mind, and it moves, that's what it does, and then the sun is the soul. So that according to the natural order of things in the universe, that the moon is subservient to, it's rotating around the sun, not the other way around.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for these thoughts. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, yeah, that example is really important. And yeah, there are different times in which we may really receive that strong inspiration, but it has to be verified in some way. And I love what you said about so the moon in Jyotish, the moon is the mind and the sun is the soul. Yeah.
The mind, yeah.
So the mind should be subservient to the soul. Yeah, not vice versa. Right.
When it's tethered to or anchored in that way, then it's fulfilling its natural dharma.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, this balance is important about the pratyaksha, as you said, and what we're receiving from Guru and Shastra. Okay, so we'll carry on to the C. So number 10 is the C. So I'm thinking we're not going to get through the 24 gurus. Just a hunch. Just a hunch. So if we can somehow reach the halfway point, that would be satisfying, right? 12. Yeah. So okay. So number 10 here is the C. So the Brahmana Avadut, he's sharing. A saintly sage is happy and pleasing in his external behavior, whereas internally he is most grave and thoughtful. Because his knowledge is immeasurable and unlimited, he is never disturbed, and thus in all respects he is like the tranquil waters of the unfathomable and unsurpassable ocean. During the rainy season, the swollen rivers rush into the ocean, and during the dry summer, the rivers, now shallow, severely reduce their supply of water. Yet the ocean does not swell up during the rainy season, nor does it dry up in the hot summer. In the same way, a saintly devotee who has accepted the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the goal of his life sometimes will receive by providence great material opulence, and sometimes he will find himself materially destitute. However, such a devotee of the Lord does not rejoice in a flourishing condition, nor is he morose when poverty-stricken. So this very equipoised position of a great soul. That when there's abundance, okay, I accept. When there's scarcity, okay. So the ocean exemplifies that, and it's much akin to what your name, Prabhu? Sorry.
Darsh.
Darsh. What Darsh Prabhu was sharing about, yeah, in many ways, the rivers will always flow to the sea. So that can be compared to our devotion to Bhagavan, but also at the same time, one example that's given here is also that sometimes the rivers are like our desires, and we try to remain neutral like the ocean. So here in Bhagavad Gita, there's a verse. So, a person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. So in this way, a great soul will be tolerant of whatever's coming, whether it be quote unquote good in the material sense or bad, right? They don't see it in that way. Okay. Well, number 11 is the moth. This is another heavy one from the Brahmana Avadhuta. So he's saying, a foolish person with no intelligent discrimination, immediately aroused at the sight of a lusty woman beautifully decorated with golden ornaments, fine clothing, and other cosmetic features. Being eager for sense gratification, such a fool loses all intelligence and is destroyed just like the moth who rushes into the blazing fire. Let it be known, of course, this applies across all gender expressions and so on and so forth, that we can become transfixed with someone's external appearance and external profile in various ways. And that can capture us in so many ways. We can become bewildered in such a way that our intelligence is a little bit lost. We lose our deeper reasoning in terms of, is there actually some beneficial situation here? We can just become very much pulled in by the externals. And it may be in a romantic context, or it may even just be in this world. We meet someone of great position and they impress us and we wish to possess some sliver of what we see and things like that. We can become very much pulled in by external features of people. So in Bhagavad Gita we have a similar reflection. Thus, the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. And then in the universal form, Arjuna, when he's seeing the Virat Rupa, the universal form of Krishna, which is a very terrifying vision for him, he says, I see all people rushing full speed into your mouths as moths dash to destruction in a blazing fire. So in other words, the more we come to identify with the external world, we risk being enchanted by it in such a way that it burns us up. So this is just a reflection that's being shared here in this context. So not that we don't engage with the material features, but if we understand that they're coming from Krishna, and if we understand that they're temporary, not that they're unreal necessarily, they can be understood as real because they're Krishna's energy, but they're temporary. So we try to have some priority in that respect. Okay, halfway point. Honeybee. So the honeybee, he shares, a saintly person should accept only enough food to keep his body and soul together. He should go from door to door, accepting just a little bit of food from each family. This is the tradition. Thus, he should practice the occupation of the honeybee. Just as the honeybee takes nectar from all flowers, big and small, an intelligent human being should take the essence from all religious scriptures. That was very nice and inspiring to hear. That we find, Srila Prabhupada says in one place, I forget exactly where it's coming from, but he says, if you find gold, no matter where you find gold, no matter where it may come from, it's still gold. So in that way, if we find some inspiration in scriptures from various traditions, we can recognize it for what it is. And Srila Prabhupada really so beautifully helps us to do that. He says if one is developing love of God by following a particular tradition, that should be the test by which that tradition is deemed to be bona fide or not. If someone's developing love of God, then it's perfect. It can be considered perfect. So, a saintly person should not think, this food I will keep to eat tonight, and this other food I can save for tomorrow. In other words, a saintly person should not store foodstuffs acquired by begging. Rather, he should use his own hands as his plate and eat whatever fits on them. His only storage container should be his belly, and whatever conveniently fits into his belly should be his stock of food. Yeah, this is a high bar. Thus, one should not imitate the greedy honeybee who eagerly collects more and more honey. So yes, it's a high bar, and it's particular to a renunciate, it's particular to sannyas, it's particular to someone who's living that renounced life. But by the same token, we can also still learn from this, that we don't fearfully try to hoard and gather. We take what we need, right? There may be some leeway in this day and age, and depending on our ashram, our circumstance, we may be able to keep a little bit storage, but they've laid out, the acharyas have laid out also guidelines for that. And in this way, again, it goes back to that faith. It goes back to the faith that I'm not going to hoard thinking myself to be Ishvara, thinking myself to be the one who is preserving my life. We understand that Krishna is the life of all that lives. So in that way, we can try to trust in that way. But yes, for a sadhu, for a renunciate, this is the standard. Evan Prabhu, yes.
Yes. You were just mentioning about different texts. And this reminds me of some statements that Jesus Christ has taught his disciples. He was actually very renounced. Like, he was like a sannyasi. And I remember this one story in the Bible in which there was a village, I don't know the details, it's been a long time, but there was a village of people and God would provide new food for them every day. And he told them, don't keep it, like just, I'll provide every day, don't worry. And so one time they did keep it for the next day, not having faith that it would be provided for them the next day. And God didn't provide for them the next day because their faith was kind of like an insult, like, oh, you think I'm not going to provide for you. And there's another story in this vein that, Jesus would say to them, look at how God dresses the lilies with beauty and splendor. So he will clothe you. And look at how God watches over every sparrow. So he watches over you, because you're even more intelligent and dear. Like you're in human form of life. Like this verse said that the doors to liberation are wide open. So that it just reminded me of that connection. And I thought it was a nice point.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful reflection. Very, very much aligned to what's being shared here. Thank you. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much. And with your permission, we'll go for part 2 in the near future. Hare Krishna.
Dina Bandu ki Now we'll have Arti. If everyone can just move these red cushions to the side and move the chairs back so we can all come forward and chant and dance together for Arti. Please come forward.
That would be wonderful. Yeah, let me begin.
Yeah, I will.
प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री शिवार कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। मायापुर नगरी धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा देवी की जय। गंगा माई की जय। जमुना माई की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। कलयुग धर्म हरि नाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। All glories to the devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the divine lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Namaste, Nada Simhaya. Yata yata yamitato nishima. Mahir nishima hridaye nishima. Narasimhadev Sharanam Prapade. Narasimhadev Sharanam Prapade. Tavakadakam Lavarenakam Adbhutashrimam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Janubrahmam Ishavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare भगवान की जय, श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे।
Hare Krishna. Thank you all so much for being here. This happens every Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So please come, make it your weekly thing, your weekly program. And next Sunday, March 26th, we have Sravanam. He's going to be giving a class, so we're really looking forward to that. And just some announcements. If you would like to be on our temple newsletter, which is a weekly newsletter that goes out that tells you all the things that are happening at Bhakti Center for our devotee community, you just go to our website and then scroll down to the bottom and click on Join Our Temple Newsletter. We also have a temple WhatsApp, which is also updates on what's happening. And that you can see me if you would like to be added to that. And we have coming up on March 30th, it's a Thursday, we have a special Thursday night kirtan for Ram Nomi, which is going to include some bhajans and a dance and drama performance and kirtan for the appearance day of Lord Ram. Please mark your calendars and please come for that. And then I wanted to just share with you all, although this is more of a core program for the devotee community, just so you're aware of like other things that are going on at Bhakti Center. We also have a yoga studio, and everyone is, encouraged to take yoga classes, participate in that, tell their friends about that. We're really trying to build our yoga studio right now. And we have Tuesday night kirtan every Tuesday night, which is a great thing to invite new people to. It's really like a guided music meditation experience. That's from 7:30 to 8:30. Of course, our Thursday night kirtan is from 7 to 9 p.m., followed by vegan dinner. That's here in the temple room. The Tuesday night is downstairs in the yoga studio. And we always have community groups going on. So we have Beginning Bhakti, which the next one, a virtual group begins on April 3rd. So if you know anyone in your life that's like new to Bhakti who would benefit from this kind of like discussion and reading group, please tell them about that. We also have Growing Bhakti, for which is people who have either already taken Beginning Bhakti or are farther along in their journey. And we have virtual groups beginning, one begins tomorrow, March 20th, and another one on March 30th. And then if you're interested in joining a home sangha, which are sanghas for practicing devotees at different devotees' homes, I coordinate those. You can come see me if you're interested in hosting one at your home or participating in one. And Doyle Duranga here, who is our executive director, who we all love so much, he does a podcast every morning, Monday to Friday from 9 to 9:30, which is also really, really good for new people. And it's good for everybody. Like, I know so many people who are also practicing devotees and they listen to that and they get so much from it. And I've listened to it and think it's super amazing. So that's on our website as well. And last announcement is we have every year, twice a year, a pilgrimage to India. And our next one will be in the fall. So if you know someone who would really benefit from a guided trip to India, you can see that. Jai Shri Radharani Shri Radharani Ki, Shri Prabhupada Ki. And we have lunch prasadam served for everyone in the back. Little School of Bhakti, yeah, I'm always forgetting that. Thank you so much. Little School of Bhakti is starting beginning of April, and April 2nd, right?
I think it's the following week.
Okay, April 16th.
That's
9th, thank you. April 9th, we have a Little School of Bhakti starting. It's going to be during the same time, Bhagavat Sravanam, and it's for kids. And that gives an opportunity for families with kids to bring their kids, attend Bhagavat Sravanam, and have their kids learn really, really amazing things about Krishna consciousness in a fun way by guided teachers. And it's actually going to be a curriculum. So we have it on our website. It's on the homepage. If you click on Little School of Bhakti, it gives you all the information on how to sign up for that. And leave a donation if you can, either here in the Hundi or back by Prasadam. Take Prasadam in the back of the temple room, not the front. And if anybody would like to help clean up afterwards, you can also see me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for your talk was amazing. Yeah, so good.
Thank you all for that. Yeah, we'll plan for the second
Part
half
two.
eventually.
Yeah.
So good. Thank you so much. So good to see you too.
Yeah.
She was so nice. She was here on Thursday.
Yeah, it was good. She wanted to get.
Yeah, her mom is so nice. I was really excited. I'm like,
I can see.
I'm good. How are you?
She's doing I can't sleep every night. She's like sitting there falling asleep.
You can do that? I've never seen
So like, it's not really good, but this book she's really great. My parents.
Wow.
My mom's not really that like consistent with her reading.
that way,
She's just like, I can't. I just want to
Yeah.
get through it.
But that's the thing, whenever
I know she does, but still.
We know for sure he didn't die.
And she's just like,
So I did my research, so it's CPE, you've heard of, it's like pastoral education. So I did my first unit at a hospital.
Left, I think it just like.
And then I did a 3-unit residency after doing the first unit. You can usually.
wait, you're like falling asleep or?
It's the New Presbyterian Hospital.
Perfect, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get to know someone who's doing that, you know. You get to know someone who's doing anything, that's it too. It depends. I've heard of some people and also who had access to some program. But bachelor's degree, I would have been school in life.
I like reading, I guess. I go through phases though. I get like with everything in my life, I kind of like really do a lot of it till I can't do it anymore.
He's a gunshot for
I like immersed myself for a while and then same with like making art. Maybe that's not good.
How is your art?
The Masters of Divinity is
I don't
really
know.
tough. I don't have one.
Kind of just-
You know, there are ways around it because
I
of our
mean,
tradition.
I
We're
don't-
not seminary.
I think
It's
all
not
of
our
life is
standard, you know, so
creativity.
you've done a lot of
I'm doing
study.
things, you know.
So sometimes
Yeah.
you navigate in that way.
She's
You
always.
do need a Master of Divinity
Like
to
today I was just
get
taking
some of the
notes
very
in class, but
good
it's not like beautiful or anything.
Oh, it's beautiful.
We're considering.
I didn't want him to stop.
Yeah.
Go away.
I
You have the time and
But I know the
the
teachers
resources
have like
to
a
do it. You
schedule.
need to stuff, but it's like,
They can't.
yeah, I don't think you regret it.
How's
Feel
Foster
free.
Day?
He's not back yet. He's still making it. He gets back on the 25th, so that's Saturday.
things that I've not thought about before.
Yeah, tomorrow's
So
the
happy
first
to
day
hear
of
that.
spring.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that pastime, that
No, it's just like
particular
the western.
story has that effect on me too. That kind of encourages you to open your eyes.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You know, to see
The first
things
day
in
of,
new and
the
different
moment
ways.
of spring is actually the same moment everywhere in the world, the moment of the equinox.
Yes.
And it's, here, it's gonna
Yeah,
be
a lot of hectic things going on.
It's actually.
I guess through the lens of like this pastime,
Oh, is
you
it?
He's just singing so
get
beautifully.
realizations from that.
I was just like, there's so much heart.
Whatever circumstance it was, I guess it was like for realizations.
So,
I would love listening to
yeah, tomorrow's the equinox at 5:24
Yeah.
p.m. here. So it's gonna be like
I don't know what the next
super
opportunity will be
2:24
to
in
share, to speak.
California, right?
Since we only got through half today.
And like that's
In the future, Krishna will like, yeah, that would be
at the
really
same
good.
second.
Dina Bandu. So good to meet you. That's Darsh, is that correct? Yeah, so good to meet you.
I didn't know.
Yeah, you come here frequently?
Yes,
Yeah.
I try to come every week.
I never know what day it is, honestly.
I like coming here on Friday, but this
When I
Friday
do know what day it is, the equinox or the moon phase.
Okay.
And I was actually thinking so
Yeah.
I was in the
Yeah. Yeah, I guess with the new
Yeah.
the arrival of spring, it's like,
Oh my God, I have to-
gratitude and like
Humble,
just,
yeah.
it's like the outpouring of
Yeah.